The Health Ovation team is about to find out everything that you need to know about neonatology and the world of infants and parental care from none other than Dr. Roger Joy from the Lodz Hospital at Kochi.
Most of the times we don't see sunrise, we don't see sunset. Every pregnancy is in high risk. You can't guarantee that this baby is going to be pakka okay after coming out. Ambulance going over the hump, tubes can come out, so sometimes you may have problems. With no other transport incubator or no ambulance is better than mother's womb. Once you stabilize a baby, we are also happy. So once you go on, click onto it, you will see a ventilator bed statuses of all the tertiary care centers in Kochi.
It's a pleasure to actually have you here, and welcome to Health Ovation. So why we chose you is for the Health Ovation magazine is because you've set a new trend in neonatology. So we're really impressed with that, and which is why we feel you can contribute to a lot to the society through this interview. So thank you once again, and let me begin on a very very cordial note. How do you start your day at Lodz?
It's a tough question to ask to a neonatologist because we don't most of the times we don't see sunrise, we don't see sunset.
Oh God.
It's a big problem because we don't know what time any baby can become sick in an ICU, because we may have NICUs will be loaded with a lot of babies, and that's why the problem is like we may start a day at something around 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning and end at around 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the night, because that's a problem with this particular specialty, because we need 24 hours monitoring that will be done by the nurses over there, but somebody has to be there all around to say them what to guide them and how to do the rest of the business in ICU. So typically speaking, if the calls are not there, usually I start by around 7:30 in the morning. I come to the hospital. I first go to the NICU. I take the rounds over there, and it may take around 2.5 or 3 hours to finish off the rounds, because we can't. It takes a lot of time to spend with the babies. Yes. Actually, because we have to see how because each medicine dose is different. We can't have an error on the medicine dose. We have to, because it's and the thing is like we have to monitor the babies, clinical examination. It all takes a lot of time, and then we have to judge what exactly has to be done to these babies actually.
Okay.
So we do all these things. Then we have an appraisal to the parents, which is done as a one-to-one open discussion with the parents.
Okay, this is done on a daily basis.
This is done on a daily basis in the morning, and we'll appraise them regarding what has happened overnight and what is a new situation, how was the baby doing, and there we'll hear what exactly they have to say, and any new treatments, any new developments, we'll be appraising them, and what has to be done next. If something goes wrong, what has to be done next. Okay. And this appraisal is not just in the morning. If something, we imagine a baby around 600-700 grams in the NICU. If this baby goes wrong at some point of time in a day, we just immediately call the parents and involve them in the caring also. That point of time, we take the parents to the ICU and show them, okay, this is what is happening to the baby. You may need to do this, you may need to do that. So that point of time, we'll explain to them that way. And then after finishing my postnatal round, after finishing my NICU rounds and appraisal, I go to the postnatal ward. The postnatal ward is also have a lot of babies who have shifted from the ICU, who are born who are born in the delivery room. Those babies will be there. And those babies also, we take a rounds and explain to the parents. Most of the times we have problems with the breastfeeding, give them lactation counselings, and make them confident regarding the breastfeeding. I'm one person who believes strongly on breastfeeding, not on the formula feed. So I just make most of my consultant, my boss have told me, like, if you can make a mother breastfeed exclusively for 6 months, your job as a pediatrician has been done. So that's what we are all practicing, and we support the mothers for the lactational support and lactational systems. Then we have an OPD over here, and that OPD will be sometimes it will be a rush heavy OPD, and that OPD gets over, and then have my lunch and go back to ICU again for the next rounds. Because even though I have my residents and fellows in the ICU, I just want to make sure that everything goes on to the system, and then I take another rounds. And if something is different from the morning, then I will appraise the parents again in the evening. That's what the day goes on.
Oh, pretty hectic day.
A hectic day. And if any sick delivery or any sick babies comes, we have a referral center over here. So if the babies are due, comes for reference, then I'll come back and see the baby. I have to come back from home and see the baby. So in an effect, my duty most of the times will be 24 hours into 7, even though we have a support system over here. That's why I stay near, very close to the hospital, around 5 minutes walkable distance. So that because I've seen most of the times my neighbors telling Dr. Roju running from one hospital, from the home to the hospital, because the calls will come immediately. They'll tell doctor baby has not cried, or somebody is in ICU is like suddenly went to apnea, is not breathing. So I'll have to come running from the hospital. That's why I'm running to the hospital. That's why I stay nearby to the hospital actually. That's how my day goes on.
So what drew you to this neonatology? Did you feel that it might be a very passionate field?
Yeah, because that actually is like I was first when I finished my MBBS, my first profession was in ophthalmology.
Okay.
I did AIMS Ophthalm for nearly 6 months.
Okay.
And
that was your first choice?
That was that's not my first choice. I got AIMS.
Okay.
And so I went there because AIMS is the most premier institute in India. So I went there, and I needed an end specialty because I thought I would not be able to do a super specialty after that. So I thought I'll do an end specialty. And end specialties are mostly ophthalm, pediatrics, and ENTs and orthos and stuff like that. So I did an ophthalm for some time. And then I felt AIMS is okay, but Delhi is not okay. I mean, because of when I had nearly the place which we were staying, we had a boom blast or something like that. So I had to leave AIMS. I got All India entrance, and then I chose to leave from AIMS to another institute called JIPMER.
Okay.
The second, third or best medical college in India. And so I went there, and that was a turning point in my career. I decided to do pediatrics and stop it actually. And once I entered JIPMER, and the first posting was in an ICU.
Okay.
So the first posting in NICU, JIPMER NICU is a huge NICU with 60 bed NICU, a lot of babies over there. And my consultant was very nice over there, Dr. Vishnu Bhatt, and his guidance, and Dr. Srinivasan, my HOD, and that all drew my passion to neonatology, because I felt that it's a critical care is a very interesting one and it's a very demanding one. And so I thought, okay, this is my profession rather than this thing. And one other thing is like babies do complain a lot of things. These babies don't complain most of the things. We have to find their complaints and we have to treat their complaints. That's most challenging. So that's why I drew my passion into the neonatology.
This was how many years back?
I joined in MD for 2007 to 2010. I did MD in JIPMER, and after that, neonatology, I did a DM, super specialty course in JIPMER.
So neonatology was a big thing in that time?
Yeah, actually, cool. I was in the second batch of DM in JIPMER. And at that point of time, the DM neonatologist, DM was started not very lately. Because I think the first hospital to start was in AIMS, second was in PJ, and third was something around JIPMER. And I was the second batch of JIPMER DM neonatology. So that was MD was 3 years time. So that was in 2007 to 2010 I did MD, and 2010 to 2013 I did DM.
Okay.
So and then after finishing DM I came back to Kochi, which was my hometown. And for the last 5 years I was the only DM neonatologist over here. And recently people have started coming over here actually.
So what is your opinion about the neonatology scenario here? In India, I mean, yes.
People always think that the best treatments are available mostly abroad. I can see politicians and all the people going abroad for treatments of simple ailments. I don't think why they are not trusting the Indian doctors and Indian facilities over here. And whatever is there abroad, most of the things have come over to India also these days. So I think we are adept at taking care of even the smallest of small babies and babies with any emergencies. And recently we had the smallest baby in Kerala over here.
Yes, I read about it.
Survived in Kerala. That's around 380 grams. And even the world literature they say some 260 or 280 grams. And it was a 23 weeker. That's born before the period of viability. Preterm baby born at 23 weeks. Somebody who is born after 24 weeks is taken as a live birth. So if somebody is born before 24 weeks is taken as an abortion. So this was a 23-weeker baby who was born to a mother who had multiple episodes of infertility treatment and abortions, and this was her last hope. And so we luckily with the God's grace we could manage this baby survive, and right now this baby is in Uttar Pradesh. She was her name is Kashvi. She
Okay.
was a daughter of one of the consultants over here. I mean, the DNB students over here.
Okay.
She is in Uttar Pradesh right now, and she's now 4 months, 3 months, maybe around 6 months of age right now, and she's doing well. India's second smallest baby, actually.
Wow, congrats
So,
to you.
yeah, thank you. So that means these facilities are available in India, not just in outside world. We have almost all facilities to take care of these little ones.
Okay, so India is fully equipped to
It is
handle
fully
it.
equipped with neonatology scenarios, I believe. In most of the tertiary care centers,
Uh-huh.
and the only problem is like we know that the population is very high, the delivery system is also very high, and the government is coming up with good plans to build up the neonatology scenarios even in the district hospitals as well as in taluk hospitals. They may not be able to take care of the little ones, most of all these little ones. For that, we have a referral system where we refer the babies from these peripheral centers to the central hospitals.
Okay.
And I am sure that most of the government hospitals, especially in Kerala, we have a very good neonatal setup.
Okay.
And that's why we could reduce the neonatal mortality rate as well as the infant mortality rates. In fact, our rates are far better with the Western countries. The lowest neonatal mortality rate in the whole world is with Japan.
Japan.
Yeah. And after that, it comes with Canada.
Okay.
In Kerala's neonatal mortality rate is comparable to Canada.
Wow, it's very impressive because I don't think not many people know about this.
Yeah.
I think we are just building up, we are just growing. That's what they think. It's very good information. So, what are the services or facilities that they can look forward to? For example, if a mother is approaching the hospital to take care of her unborn child, so what are the facilities that you offer?
So when they offer the facilities, is like you have to start from antenatal period, because she have to give a proper delivery care. So we have a very good gynecology as well as obstetric department over here. See what problem she has come for. Say emergency. She has come at a pain at around 6 months of gestation. Say around that's around 24 weeks or 25 weeks. So most of the times what we say is that the preterm baby, we try to prevent the preterm delivery. If the mother comes with the preterm labor pain or preterm pain or something, we try to prevent it, we try to delay it if possible, to carry on to a little bit more time, so that the best neonatologist is a womb inside. And the mother is the best neonatologist also, because we try to prevent the delivery, but if that is not possible, something is nature is trying to push it out, we have to accept it. So what we have to do is like we have to give some medicines to the mother so as to make sure that the baby's outcome is better. So mother also needs some important 2 medicines called steroids as well as steroids and magnesium sulfate. A lot of studies have found that these medicines given to the mother actually improves the outcome of the baby.
Okay.
That is very important.
Even if it's a steroidal composition.
Yeah, because that actually is this is based on animal studies. It was found when way back in 1950s. They found that when the mother was given antenatal steroids, they actually increases the maturity of the lungs of the baby, of the preterm baby. It was done in lambs or something like that, and they found that the same trials were done in human beings, and they found that when the mothers were given steroids, the babies who were born had a better lung maturity, better reduced risk of intracranial bleed inside the brain, and lesser incidences of infections in the gut. So that actually increases maturity as a whole. So that is very important with the steroids. That's why we need, say, when you give usually they give 2 doses of steroids and then say what is happening. And if that is given, that is fine. Then once the steroids and all these injections are given, and if delivery is not that, we can't delay the delivery. They try to delay the delivery by giving progesterones and see what if preterm labor can be delayed, or if the contractions can be delayed or something. But that is not possible. The baby is going to come out. Then most important aspect is the delivery room.
Okay.
Once this tiny little one, say the 600 gram is born, the most important point of care is at the first point of care, that is a delivery room. So if something goes wrong at delivery room, whatever you are going to do later, that is not going to work. So for that, we have an efficient team of neonatologists, trained people are there, because that's why we conduct regularly neonatal resuscitation program for our people and staff over there. So we have most of the time when preterm deliveries, I will be there or my assistant will be there. We have 2 people most of the times as a part of doctors. We have trained nurses. We have an assistant to give the medicines.
Okay.
And most importantly, we need we have a proper delivery area, because most of the times these babies may not take breath at birth. So they may be asphyxiated. They may not have crying at birth. They will come without crying most of the times. So we need to give a positive pressure. We need to give artificial respirations, artificial cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which has to be given very gently in a careful manner. because if it's not given gentle way, later on we'll have problems, and given in not in gentle way, in adequate way also it creates problem. Next thing is we need to transport these babies from the delivery room to the NICUs.
Okay.
Most of the times we find that the delivery room is one place and an ICU is in a different place. And the transport is a big problem because you all know these babies are very small, fragile babies. They don't have a very fat in the body. So the most important problem is the temperature can go down.
Okay.
So for that, we have a very good adapted transport incubators in the hospital in our setup.
Okay.
So with that, we transfer the babies to the NICU. Once a baby reaches NICU, the more important thing is maintain the temperature of the baby, the airway, the circulations, and the nutrition. That is very important. These are the things which we usually make sure that the babies are received adequately, so that they need to grow as if they are not born earlier actually. So
as if they are still in the womb.
As if they are still in the womb. So that's what we are planning to give to these babies actually. To maintain the temperature, we have incubators. We do have radiant warmers sometimes. Uses it. And for the lungs, as I told you, most of the times the lung maturity may be on the lower side. So the people have found that the maturity may be because maybe the lack of surfactant in the body. So people have come up with a good quality surfactants these days, which are given artificially into the baby's lung, so as to replace what is not there.
Okay.
Actually, the babies will produce surfactant only after some 34 week or 36 week. You can't expect a 24 weeker or 26 weeker to have surfactant inside the lungs.
Okay.
This was actually found out after a bad report. Because when Kennedy's baby died, very long back, it was around 2.3 kg, 36 weeker baby, died at day 3 of life. And people find out why this baby died, even though its weight was okay. Then they found that this baby died because of a respiratory distress problem, because of lack of surfactant. Then a lot of investigation came out, and then the people were able to make the surfactant outside. But then this compound, when the babies are born preterm and they have a respiratory problem, we give this compound to these babies to enhance the lung maturity. And that's how it's very easy for us to care the babies actually.
Wow.
That's one important discovery that actually helped us in taking care of these little ones. Then the newer equipments which have come into existence, the ventilators, the non-invasive ventilators like that, the monitoring systems, the oxygen controlling systems, and the screening systems. And those, because we don't have to ship the babies for scans or these things down to the NICU, from NICU to the radiology room. They come there and do the scans because of
it's all available under one roof.
Yeah, the new sonology machines are too equipped to pick up from there. Then the mother and the baby along together is called a kangaroo mother care. That's because that is very important for the caring of these babies. Just like a mother kangaroo taking care of the baby kangaroo, we make them, when the babies are stable, we make the mothers come inside an ICU and make them keep the baby on the bare chest. So that idea is very good because it actually helps in reducing infections, enhance the bonding between the mother and the baby, and reduces stress for the baby, and the baby's pain will come down. How many of you believe that babies do feel pain? Babies also, these small little ones, 600 grams, also feel pain. So these are things which actually reduces the pain as well as stress to these babies actually. These are the things which we do in an ICU. Based on these outcomes only, we are able to make these smaller little ones survive actually. Otherwise, it's not just a matter of survival. We just have to survive in a normal way, so that in future we can come give interview like this.
Yes.
Not just going to the physiotherapy center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how challenging is it? Like you have facilities for the parents, the families and the children and the infants, I mean.
Yeah.
But how challenging is it? I mean, how many people understand?
Yeah, that is a big problem because how many ever reports come out that 23 weeker had survived, 500 grams has survived, 600 grams has survived.
What is the ideal weight? I'm sorry, it's my ignorance.
Ideal weight is anything more than 2.5 kilograms is an ideal weight. Anything less than 2.5 kilogram is a low birth weight. If we are talking in terms of grams over these days. Now, why I'm telling all this is we had instances, sometimes the parents will come and ask us, hey, unfortunately, they have recently we had a mother who had come from a nearby hospital, referred to her from a nearby hospital. She was the first, it was her first pregnancy, and unfortunately, she had a rupture of membranes. The membranes got leaked. There was a leaking of fluid by around 6 months or 7 months of age, gestation. And when these mothers comes like this, we do an antenatal counseling with the parents. We'll discuss with them what are the possibilities of babies outcome are, what all measures are available over here. We also have a slam book of whatever babies have gone from here previously, all the what their data and what was the experience of treating with the neonatal center of Lourdes Advanced Neonatal Center. We'll try to show them. We discuss with the all parents. We put a prenatal counseling with the parents. And most of the times, sometimes we feel that after hearing all this, they'll say that, okay, doctor, can you give me 100% guarantee, making sure that my baby will be perfectly okay?
It's just not possible.
Yeah, that's not possible. The only person who can give 100% guarantee is the person above. But we'll tell them like, okay, we'll try 90% or 95%, which were possible from best in our side, and rest is left to the God. We'll say that which all facilities are available over here. These are the facilities. These are babies who have survived from here. These are data of the babies who have survived from here. I'm not telling that almost all these extreme preterms have survived in normal outcome. There have been mishaps that are depends upon the mother's status. Imagine a mother who has come with infection, or mother who has not received this medicines which I've told earlier, and they come in sudden onset labor and it's totally unplanned pregnancy and unbooked pregnancy. They can have complications. We are not gods to save everybody, but we can have problems in some babies actually. So we try to tell them all these things. But sometimes people are reluctant to take up the services, and but even after that parent, it took me nearly 2.5 to 3 hours to convince them to do something for the baby. And guess what? The baby was around 650 grams, if I remember that. And now, right now, she's 2 years.
So what I understand is the OB and the NICU, it goes hand in hand, right? So what are the essential specialty services that you offer combined? Collectively?
Yeah, as you correctly mentioned, it's not a single person's job actually. We do have, because we need a cooperation of OBG along with us. So as I told you, if anything has to be done in neonatology, the perfect OBG setup has to be there.
Yes.
Because if they have to give the correct medicines and correct time, they have to pick up any problems in the baby.
Okay.
See, the scans can, sometimes the mother tells that suddenly movements have come down or movements are decreasing.
Okay.
They have to come immediately to the OBG and labor room and see whether the baby's heart rate is okay, baby's respirations are okay, baby is doing well. The baby is not doing well, maybe if something is going wrong, we have to take off the baby immediately, because it's something the intrauterine, the placenta has become hostile. There's no point in keeping the baby inside. So that needs a proper good OBG system, or otherwise a neonatologist will have a tough time, because you may be getting a baby who has not cried at birth, or who have some problems, and how much ever you try, then we'll have a problem.
Yes.
But in that is very important. So luckily we have a very good OBG team over here. So what they do is, usually does is like, we always does a counseling together to the parents. We involve the OBG and myself and my team, and we'll be counseling the parents when they come with the difficult case or difficult scenarios. And sometimes, unfortunately, even sometimes we would have done a scan 2 days back of prior, and the mother would have suddenly decreased movements, and suddenly the baby is born, and the baby may not have cried at birth. In that case, we may have to give a resuscitation to the babies, and those are babies who are badly ill. It's called a perinatal asphyxia. Baby was not asphyxiated at birth, or birth asphyxia.
Okay.
So what we do is like, we need to give ventilations, and sometimes we give what is known as therapeutic hypothermia to these babies. So the parents will be anxious, because everybody will love to hear a baby who has cried at birth, and baby was not cried at birth, then everybody will be anxious. So we need to we do a combined counseling with the parents, what actually was the issue, because may not be an issue with the doctors, may be an issue with the baby comes out of the birth canal. Some babies may not be able to tolerate that stress of normal labor.
Yes.
So that could be the reason for most of the times. So that is very important. And as I told you, some medicines have to be given to the mother at the right time. Say for the preterm babies, they need to give steroids to the mother, and that has to be, even after giving steroids, even after 24 hours of the last dose, if the baby is born, baby's outcome is better. Immediately after giving steroid, the baby is born, there is no point.
There's no point. Okay.
So because it takes some time for antenatal steroids to act, because it has come to get into the mother, to get into the baby, and to enhance the protection of the surfactants inside the baby's womb, inside the baby's lung. So it takes some time for the steroids to act. So for that point of time, we have to consult the OBG that we have to somehow try to delay the preterm labor. That's why they try to give some tocolytics to delay the preterm labor, so that they're buying time for steroids. Those are the things. So it's like a combined work between us and OBG. Otherwise, there's a whole neonatology setup.
So do you advise it should be in one particular hospital or two different hospitals?
If you plan for a delivery, don't just go by seeing a gynecologist over there. Once, because you can't guarantee that, yeah, they will be very good. You can't guarantee that when the baby is born, this baby will be having any complications or not. Because in fact, when I did my DM, I was going for my DM interview. There was a written exam as well as an vocal exam was there, interview was there. The first question which was asked me was, who is an high risk pregnancy? Now, I told them, like, for me, every pregnancy is a high risk. You can't guarantee that this baby is going to be pakka okay after coming out. So once a baby is born, if you don't have a facility to take care of that baby in your hospital, in that hospital, it's very difficult to transport this sick baby in a busy traffic, especially in Kochi.
Yes.
We can expect blocks everywhere. Because for that transport, what more important is, we have to maintain the temperature of the baby.
Yeah.
Because the baby may become hypothermic, may die on the way. We have to maintain the airway of the baby. We have to maintain the heartbeat. We have to maintain the heart is working properly or not. We have to give adequate fluids to the baby so that when the baby reaches that particular center or referral center, baby sugar should be normal.
Yes.
So that is very difficult. So what I would always say is that when you're going for especially in high risk pregnancy, say something like a preterm labor, or your OBG has told you that the baby might have a problem, better go to a tertiary care center where you have a very good neonatology setup also, because we don't have to travel these babies from one hospital to the other. It's only, even the small distance is difficult for it. So you can't imagine it traveling from 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers. This may be taken wrongly, because if I tell you, then it's not that you can't conduct delivery in a peripheral center. But if you feel that, if you have any problem antenatally, better shift the mother antenatally itself to a tertiary care center, because no other transport incubator or no ambulance is better than mother's womb. So mother with the baby is the best way to transport.
What if there is no other option? I mean, does the hospital offer any facility in that?
Yeah, we have the transport ambulance is available. It's a best-in-class ambulance is there. We are retrieving babies from the nearby hospitals if they are finding it difficult to manage the babies over there. This ambulance has a transport incubator to take care of the baby's temperature inside. We do have a ventilator inside the ambulance, so that if at all, if baby requires a ventilated support, that can be provided by the ventilator. We do have a advanced monitoring system with the monitors to know what is the heartbeat, what is the respiration, what exactly the saturation oxygen levels are. The oxygen, based on that, to decide to give oxygen. That is also a blender. How much amount of oxygen can be given, that is also available inside the ambulance. And most of the times when you go for retrieval, we have trained people for the retrieval also. It's not just it's a different hospital. We have to bring the baby, because we know the roads are bumpy. We have humps over there. Because sometimes with the baby ventilator ambulance going over the hump, the tubes can come out. So sometimes you may have problems. So for that matter, we have specially trained our doctors to retrieve do the transportation facilities. We have a transportation seminar recently. We train all our fellows how to do what all things to be look at transport, what are the things which you can have to be done before transport, because you can't just go to the hospital, take the baby and come. Because the
there are certain protocols.
Yeah, the baby is not stable in that hospital. We have to first stabilize the baby there, because the transport is a difficult job. So we have to somehow make sure that say imagine you have a hospital has called a B hospital, telling that, okay, in A hospital we have a baby who is not taking adequate amount of breaths. So once people have gone from B hospital to the A, that they see the baby, okay, they find that, okay, this baby requires a respiratory support. I always tell my team, you give, with the consent of the doctors over there and the parents, you try to stabilize the airway, temperature, airway, breathing and circulation. Stabilize the baby first. Stabilize the baby before transport. Make sure his sugars are fine. Make sure his oxygenation is fine. Because make sure her glucose is fine. Make sure heart is beating normally in adequate manner. Then take the transport. Because then take the call for transport. This may take a lot of time, because our doctors go there and they stabilize the baby, because we know because when the babies are shifted off the NICU, because anything can go wrong. So once you stabilize a baby, we are also happy. We are seeing oxygen is something around 90 to 95%. Your pulses are fine, sugars are okay, and the baby is adequately having respiration. You are fine. But if baby is not taking breath, we have to sometimes we had instances, we have gone to the hospital, we have intubated the baby, ventilated the baby, and taken the baby back onto the ventilator over here. Because once the baby is into the ambulance, The problem is most of the ambulance drivers feels that if they don't go with 140 or 160, that is speed has to be maintained. That is going to be a problem. It's not just, it's a controlled transport. Once a baby is stabilized and controlled, I always believe a controlled transport with the traffic moving away, that is the best thing. We don't want the 140, 160 taking around and damaging oneself as well as other people on the road. That is very important. That's what Lourdes has been doing these days. And I am the current NNF National Neonatology Forum Ernakulam Secretary. We, along with the National Neonatology Forum of Ernakulam branch, what we have done recently is to help people in the periphery. We have made a transport app right now. What we are doing is like...
What's the name of the app?
We are right now, the app is not developed, means like it's called a Neo Transport Kochi.
Okay.
So once you go on, click onto it, you will see a ventilator bed statuses of all the tertiary care centers in Kochi. Okay, so you'll see whatever tertiary care centers are there, whichever beds are available, and they are updating it regularly. So once, if you imagine you are a doctor sitting in the periphery, you want to shift a baby to a nearby center. You are comfortable with the hospital B. But unfortunately, you called up that hospital, there are no beds over there.
Okay.
So you need to know whether you can send to C, D or E. So this app will help you to know whether C, D, E has how many beds. And we are also linked with the Google Maps. So that it tells you that how much time it will take from the baby to go from your hospital to that hospital. So you can counsel the parents that with this many hospitals, this many beds are available. So parents also will have wishes, like they may not tell, they'll tell, okay, I don't want to go to C, go to D, beds are available. So this is the one that you can tell the parents also.
Okay.
And we have given the phone numbers of the referral hospitals, I mean the tertiary care centers.
Okay.
Because most of the times the mobiles may be out of range, may not be busy. So we given the landline numbers of these tertiary care centers. So those are people can call up the tertiary care centers and see whether beds are available. And one thing is like before transport, they should be try to give because most of the times we feel that the referral team may not maybe shifting the hospital, maybe shifting the baby without any prior information to us. So to avoid that, we have always mentioned that okay, this has to be informed us beforehand so that we can be prepared. So suddenly a baby coming to us from nowhere, we don't have any idea where the baby has come from. We not have been set up the ICU for that. So this way, the referral people can call us, inform us. So they are also prepared. They are also tuned to it. We are also prepared. If they want us to take the baby, retrieve that baby from that hospital, we are ready for it actually.
What are the other facilities? I mean, something of this sort. Like you have the app, you have the transport systems. Any other any facility that you would like to talk about that Lourdes Hospital offers? Yeah,
Lourdes at present has a level 4 setup NICU that's adapted managing any neonatal emergencies. We can manage any, as I told you, the smallest survived baby was 380 grams. By God's grace, that baby could survive. So we have the facilities to manage this extreme preterms. And then somebody who, as I told earlier, baby was born at birth, unfortunately didn't have a cry at birth or didn't have a respiration at birth. These babies may have problems later if not properly managed.
Okay.
So the most recent advanced thing is a therapeutic hypothermia. That's actually what we do is like we lower the body's temperature of the baby to around 33 to 34 degrees Celsius for 72 hours. My thesis was on that when I was doing a DM on that. I published a paper on that when in fact presented in the Boston University in USA on that. So what we do is like we reduce the temperature to 33-34 degrees Celsius for 72 hours. The idea is very simple. By reducing the temperature of these babies who are born term and maybe had an asphyxia at birth, we are reducing the body's demand.
Okay.
The basal metabolic rate will come down, and that's why we are reducing the body's demand. So in that way, we can support the other organs because you have a system which is not able to adjust with the normal. So we are, whatever is there in the baby, we are trying to, with that we are trying to run the show. And also we along with that, we add on to the, we try to catch up with the baby and try to improve his outcome. So we have found that with this cooling, we have a cooling systems for that. Advanced cooling systems are there. We found that the babies who have had a perinatal asphyxia at birth had a lesser morbidity and lesser mortality than babies who are maintained at normal temperature. So this facility is right now available in Lourdes. And more importantly, what I have always felt is a lactation support system. And I have felt most of my friends telling that the baby is born, Mother is there, but mother does not know how to give the breast milk. I'm sure that most of you would have felt this problem, and the baby starts crying and we don't know what to do. So we have created a good lactation support system over here, so that if any mother needs a requirement of feeding or lactation support, we have a good team that comes to you, sits with you, counsels you, and then make sure that breast milk is fed exclusively to the baby for the first 6 months. Because as I told you earlier, I always believe in the power of breast milk. We don't want the formulas to go inside the baby. So that is also there. And we do have, if somebody comes with neonatal jaundice, and because babies can have jaundice in newborn period. And if a little amount can be, smaller amounts of jaundice which requires treatment can be done with at a good amount of phototherapy. This is called, we keep the babies under blue color light. It was actually an accidental discovery. A person called Sister Ward, when she was long back, she was a nurse, and she was handed over a baby who had an yellow color on the body. Unfortunately, she kept the baby near a window, and unfortunately she forgot after some time to look after this baby. When they came back after some time, they found that the baby was, that whatsoever area the yellow color was there, got bleached. Then she understood that the sunlight can reduce the amount of jaundice. Based on this accidental discovery, people started using phototherapy. They keep the baby under the blue color light. We keep the baby, the bilirubin is more, because if bilirubin is more, it enter the baby's brain, it can create damage to the baby's brain, eyes, and the vision, and the hearing. Once this damage is done, we can't do anything. So to prevent that from happening, we keep the babies under the blue color light. If the baby's bilirubin is meeting that particular threshold, then we try to assess what exactly the value are. If sometimes the bilirubin is too high, sometimes we get referrals from outside telling that bilirubin is too high. In that case, we'll have to do an exchange transfusion. And what we do is, like, we take out the baby's blood little by little and transfuse another blood into the baby. It's like a dialysis-like procedure, because we are trying, by this procedure, what we are trying to do is, like, we try to remove the harmful products from the baby and to replace the normal blood into it, so that if you want to reduce bilirubin very fast, this is the only way out. Because if we don't do it very fastly, phototherapy will take some time for bilirubin to come down. This is a rapid removal of bilirubin, because if the levels are very high and the baby is showing signs of bilirubin-induced brain damage, then we'll have to do this. So this is called exchange transfusion, and that is also being done over there. And in fact, almost sometimes we get babies with seizures, and sometimes we may get babies who are having respiratory problems. So to support them, we have high quality dedicated neonatal ventilators are there. Non-invasive measures, if somebody who doesn't want to have a ventilator support, we are called CPAP machines are there, and we have high flow machines are there, which actually these are all respiratory support machines. Yeah, and we have bedside ultrasounds, we have bedside echo machines. These things are there, and they come and do it over there. And most importantly, we have trained nurses to give what is known as a developmental supportive care. As I told you earlier, these babies have to be cared as if they are born inside, they're just still inside the mother's womb. If you go to the NICU, you will see that it's light is less, noise is less. I don't allow any cell phones inside an ICU, and even the phones in an ICU are kept outside the decreased ringtones. Because we don't want sound pollution over there, and most of the times the babies are kept, the pain, stress, all these things are brought down to a comfort. We have a neonatal pain score. So based on that score, we see the baby's pain is more, a score is more on side, baby is under stress. We try to reduce it. And that way, some of which are comfortable ways, which are passive ways of swaddling. Sometimes they will be kept swaddled on it's just like a they call mummification. Okay. But I see the old mummy movies, they just cover the baby like this. In fact, the Jesus Christ, if you see the Jesus Christ photo, is a mummified. That's a photo is there. So the same way it reduces the baby's pain, stress. And those are the things which we do. And as I told you earlier, the kangaroo mother care, the babies are preterm. It actually reduces pain as well as the stress. We have a separate kangaroo wards for it and separate beds for it, so that we make the mothers come and make the babies, mothers do the kangaroo mother care, because that actually enhances bonding between the mother and the baby. So these are the facilities which are so I would say that if any neonatal emergency, be respiratory, cardiac, we don't have a pediatric cardiologist surgery over here, and if that cardiac facility, surgical problems are there, then cardiac surgical issues are there, when you have to transfer to the dedicated cardiology center. Otherwise, most of the neonatal emergencies we can manage.
Wow, lucky to be a baby. Yeah. So you had a seminar, I believe, 2 or 3 days back. It was a preterm seminar.
Yeah.
I wanted to attend it, but I couldn't. I'm so sorry. What is the message that you wanted to convey?
We conducted a seminar by calling on the babies who are born for the last 2018 to 2019, was the babies who are preterms who were delivered over here. And 31 odd preterms had come for that seminar, and they were all happy to come back to the Lourdes because they were all tense for the last 1 or 2-3 months actually. In fact, one interesting thing was like it was inaugurated by our IAP president, and sessions were done. We did a parent education CME. It was actually a parent education CME. So I just highlighted whatever facilities are there in Lourdes and first, and then the post-discharge care of these babies was one session. What parents need to know after going back to the home. What are the things which we usually done? Which usually I tell them like most important things are feeding, infection and temperature. These are things which have to be taken care mostly. And when to come, what are the things to be done and follow up, like eye care. They need to regularly check up the eyes to know whether eyes have any problems or not. Need to develop growth and developmental assessment, because our job does not end by just sending them out of an ICU, because we want to make sure that these babies grow into very good children in the future, so that we have a very good follow-up center for that. So we always tell them regarding the follow-up of these babies, because how much ever we call, sometimes they'll tell the distance is too long, may not be able to come. So but still we'll tell them, better if you not come over here, some nearby areas, please follow up this baby, so that we don't want to miss any smaller minor ailment, so that in future they should not say that okay, it was missed earlier, that's why this baby had such a problem later. So that's why we do all this follow-up. We regularly examine this baby's eyes, do a lab test to know that whether any problems in the thyroid form problems are there, the calcium, the phosphorus and all these things are there. The baby's iron status is okay, because babies can become anemic these days most of the times, because mothers don't eat much, because
even if they are breastfed.
Even if it's a breastfed, so because all depends on mother's nutrition status. We all know that, because most of the times we feel that even the preterm babies, they require iron, because most of the transfer of iron happens during the last month of pregnancy. They are born before that, so the iron stores are less. They need to give iron to the babies. Iron supplements have to be given. So a lot of supplements are there to the babies. We have to envisage every time we'd adjust the doses based on the baby's weight, because last time we would have added based on that weight. So those things were stressed upon during the parent education CMA, and we are also stressed upon the medication, because sometimes parents will, what they do is like they try to give all medicines at the same time. And one time finish the job. That should not be done, because most of the medicines do have some interactions. So you have to be spacing the medicines. So these things were taught to the parents, what has to be taken care of to avoid visitors, to take care of the baby's temperature, what at home, because inside an ICU they were under warmer. Most of the times I discharge babies around 1.3, 1.4 or 1.5 kgs. I discharge the babies from an ICU, and I'll tell them to take care of the babies at home in the normothermia, to put a cap on, the socks on, the sweater on, and make sure the baby's hands and are always pink and not just blue, because if it's blue, that means the temperature is on the lower side. So these things are always taught regarding breastfeeding, like how to feed the baby, how frequent they feed the baby, how much. Sometimes babies may not take this, so they have to express the pump, take the milk and give feeding. And night feeding is very important, because mothers most of the time, I'm sure they will be tired, but they will tend to sleep off for a pretty long time, and they'll think that baby is sleeping. Don't disturb the baby, but maybe baby may be sleeping because of lethargy. Her sugar would have gone down. That's why baby may be sleeping. So I will always tell them, especially the preterm babies, once in every 3 hours, make sure the feeding is being done, so the baby sugars are not going down. So this is the things which always tell the parents regarding the postnatal. The hurry of discharge, sometimes when once you are hearing the word discharge, these things will be gone out of your mind. So what we'll do is, like, before discharge itself, we prime the mother. When the babies are out of NICU, we keep them in postnatal wards. We nearly 3 to 4 days, and mother is confident. We'll keep slowly every day we'll keep on telling these same things to the parents, so that they don't miss it actually. But even then they may forget. So that's why to make sure that these things are not forgotten, we conduct the CM.
So how often do you have such seminars?
These are the things which were done every year, so that we have a get together of our small babies. And another class was done by OBG, like how to prevent the next preterm labor. because already they had a stress of one preterm labor, and what are the possible strategies to prevent the next preterm labor. That's also done in that seminar. And the last was the developmental assessment of the babies. All the babies were done a proper growth and developmental assessment, and we taught them early stimulation, because as I told you earlier, these babies are born with a total immaturity. The brain would not have matured, the heart may not have matured, the lungs would not have matured. So we want them to cope with an external stress. So we need to stimulate them in a little bit way so that they don't have any problems later on. It's called early stimulation or developmental therapy. So we have a developmental therapist over here. She explains to them regarding what are things to be done to provide a visual stimulation, the hearing stimulation, brain stimulation, the general exercises. This can be done at home, because we teach the parents regarding this, what can be done at home. So they go back home, do this, so that the visual, neurological outcome of these babies are far better than babies who are not being given these therapies. So just again a good therapy for the parents actually. These are things which were envisaged during that particular program. And one thing the father director told was very interesting, that he quoted one of them, I forgot his name, and one Bollywood actor. He got a preterm baby, and once the baby is out of an ICU, he gave a quote in his Telegram post or something. He told that one thing after my baby, little baby was born, is one good advantage was that I learned to pray. Because doctors always told that without prayer and God's support, it's not going to work. So this made me trust more in the God and trust more in people around me, because of the trust which I could put forward in the doctors and the trust which I put forward in the God, this baby came out. So this was an important message that Father gave us in this thing. So I always feel like without the God's support, this cannot be done.
I think every birth is a miracle.
Yeah, every birth is a miracle, and always see angels in the babies over there, because we can see that how much ever we do, and always in my presentation also the first slide was thank God. Because when you say anything, it's not our hands, it's the person who has above has done everything for us. So because that is his miracle, that's all.
Definitely. So when do you call it a day? I know it's a very hectic day for you every day, but even then, when do you wind up?
Usually I wind up by around 7:30 to 8 over here sometimes, and sometimes it may go to around 8, 9 or 9:30. But I have to, as I told you earlier, if any sick case comes in the night, it's not that they don't, it's not a must, but I always make sure that I am there, because I don't want any babies to go wrong with any mismanagement. I'm sure that my people won't mismanage, but parents also, you as a parent would have come over here to just meet a consultants over here, and if you don't find us, you may feel bad. So that's why I just always make sure that I come over here, make sure that everything is fine and babies are all fine, and explain to the parents what exactly the condition we are referred for, and what are the plans, what are the treatments you are going to give to the baby. So in effect, most of the times reference do come in the middle of the night. So once, even if I'm gone out of the hospital, we'll have to come back. So there have been instances, most of the times I've been staying over here and come on the night, maybe around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and go for freshening up, come back after half an hour, and go with the next day duties. Because the people who are there already there, they don't know that I was there on the night. So I would have come in the night for another baby. So the people who are there already there in ICU will be expecting me in the morning for the appraisal of their own babies. So we don't want any delay to happen. So in effect, most of the times it's 24 hours into 7 most of the times.
It's pretty impressive. So thank God and thank you.